Okay, so today you guys are going to learn about how to graph a line. Hopefully you have seen this before in 8th grade. Even if you don't remember it, you probably have seen the slope-intercept form of an equation of a line, y equals mx plus b. That's why we went through the whole trouble of just like solving for y, because when we graph, we need our equation to be y equals mx plus b so that we're able to graph it. In this equation, y and x are going to stay letters, but our m and b are going to turn into actual numbers when we're graphing, and they represent specific things about our graph. So what does the m represent? Well, your m is going to represent the slope, and the slope of a line is how steep this line is. So whether it's a pretty even slant like this line, or whether it's really steep, almost straight up and down, or whether it's more flat. So how steep a line is, and we know that's going to be rise over run. Rise over run. Slash, it's going to be your y numbers over your x numbers, okay? And then the other number, our b, is our y-intercept. So I'm going to draw a little arrow over that. It's where the line crosses the y-axis. I know in middle school sometimes they said, oh, it's b because that's where you begin on the graph. So on this graph, our y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, we know this is the y-axis. So where does the line, this line, cross the y-axis is right here. So that's pretty easy to figure out. It's a point, b. The slope is it's a little harder to tell on the graph without getting super detailed about it. But how do you graph? First, you're going to plot the y-intercept. Always, always. That's why it's b, beginning at the y-intercept. And then the second thing is we're going to go use the slope to get to the next point. So that's how they ended up with this point over here, is they used the slope to get it. So let's look at this first equation. It says graph the line y equals 4x minus 2. So the first thing, I got to know, what's the y-intercept? Okay, well, let's look at the equation. The y-intercept is the number, the naked number. It is not the number with x. So what's my naked number in this equation? It's negative 2. Okay, so then when I am plotting it on this graph, I'm going to put a dot on negative 2. Now, I know this graph does not have numbers on it, but you start at 0. Negative means you go down 2, 1, 2. That's where the dot, let me make that a bigger dot. Negative 2 right there. Perfect. And that's it for y-intercept. Yay. Now we got to talk about the slope. Okay. Well, what number is my slope? Well, it's the number that's next to x. It's the coefficient of x. So if I look at this equation, here's the y, here's the x. The number next to x is a 4. So that means my slope is 4. Now the thing about slope is it has to be a fraction, because I'm moving in two directions. I'm moving in the y direction and the x direction, which means I have to have a fraction, because fractions have a number on top and the bottom. So how do I make a whole number into a fraction? Is you just put it over the number 1. Any number can be turned into a fraction by putting it over the number 1. And so now looking at this fraction, okay, I'm going to write it over here. My slope, if the top of my slope is a positive number, then that means I'm moving up that many. If the number on top is a negative number, then that means I'm moving down that many. So in my fraction, what number's on top? 4. Is it a positive or negative 4? It's positive. So that means I'm going to be moving up 4. Okay. Same deal on the bottom. If the number on the bottom is positive, then that means I'm going to be moving to the right. And if the number on the bottom is negative, then I'm going to be moving to the left. Most of the time, the number on the bottom is positive. And in this case, that 1 on the bottom is positive, so I'm going to be moving to the right. Okay. So what that means is, starting at the slope, you're going to move up 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Right 1, put a dot. Oh my gosh, does that mean I can only do it once? No, do it again. Up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right 1, put a dot. Okay, can I go up 4 now? No. So I'm done going this way. Well, how do I go the other way? Because obviously the graph could continue somewhere over here. when you're going the other way, so if I want to go to the left, I'm sorry, this is really ugly writing. To go other way, you have to do the opposite. Okay, so I was going up 4, 1 right. So now I'm going to go 4 down and 1 left. You have to do the opposite of both directions. You can't go 4 down and 1 right again. So I'm going 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 to the left, and I put a dot. Wherever your dot ends up, it should still make a straight line between these points. So now I can go ahead and connect them. When you guys are doing this on GoFormative, you're going to use the little straight line tool so that you don't end up with this crooked mess like I ended up with, okay? So that's the first example. Second example. Same thing. They give me the equation y equals -3 over 2x plus 3. First thing is, what is the y-intercept? So what is b? That's my naked number. I'm looking at my equation. What's the naked number? +3. So I can put +3 if I want. You don't have to put a positive, but it's a good reminder. So my +3 is up 1, 2, 3 right here. Perfect. Second step. What is the slope? So what's my m? So my slope is the coefficient, so I'm looking up here. The number next to x I can see is -3 over 2. So now I'm going to graph, and we're remembering for slope, positive, negative over positive, negative. Positive on top means up, negative on top means down. Positive on bottom means right. Negative on bottom means left. So here we go. Now in the equation, they wrote that negative sign kind of in the front. You can't really tell, does it go with the top number or the bottom number? Okay. A good rule of thumb, if it's just hanging out in the front, always just put it with the top. It does not go with both numbers. It only goes with one of the numbers, and I always just put it with the top. So we're going to say this is a -3, but a +2 on the bottom. So if it's a -3 on top, then that negative means it's going to go down 3. And a +2 on bottom means you're still going to go to the right. Okay, so let's move from our y-intercept. We're going to go 3 down. 1, 2, 3, and 2 to the right. 1, 2, put a dot. Can I do it again? Yes, I can. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, put a dot. You're going to draw as many dots as you can on this graph before you connect. And can I go again? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, dot. Can I go again? No, because then I'd be off the graph. How do I go the opposite way? Well, like, how do I go up here? I do opposite, opposite. So I'm going to go 3 instead of down, up. And then 2 instead of right, I'm going to go left. Opposite of both of the numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, dot. And it does line up with the rest of my points. I didn't end up like over here or something crazy. Can I do it again? No. So I'm going to go ahead and connect my points. Again, on GoFormative, when you do this, you should be using the straight line tool instead of trying to like freehand it, because this is what, it's not cute. If you have questions on either of these two, go ahead and you can rewatch the video. But there are some special lines we have to talk about. Now, how do I know if something is a special line? Well, if it does not look like, if the equation does not look like y equals mx plus b, okay? If I look at this equation right here, it just says x equals -2. That does not look like y equals mx plus b. It only has one letter. That's how you know. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. So these one-letter equations are pretty easy, okay? I'm not going to use like, oh, what's the y-intercept? Oh, what's the slope? I'm just saying, okay, what letter does it go through? Or what letter does it say? It says x. That means it's going to go through the x-axis. Where does it go through the x-axis? At that number, they tell you. Goes through x-axis at -2. So where is -2 on the x? Well, it's over here, dot. And the x-axis, if it has to go through this point, it's not going to go on the x-axis. It has to go through the x-axis. So it's going to be a straight up and down line. Again, you would use your straight line tool. And that's it. That's the whole graph. Pretty easy. Well, what if it's not an x? What if it's a y? Oh, well, that's still not changing anything. It's one letter. So, same rules apply. What letter is it? Well, it's the y, so it's going to go through, this is very ugly handwriting, I'm sorry, goes through the y-axis. At what number? Well, what number does it say? 4. So I'm going to go up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I put a dot. And the line has to go through this dot. It doesn't sit on the y, it goes through the y. So we're drawing this line is sideways. So our y lines are always sideways. Our x lines are always up and down. Keep an eye out for these while you're practicing on your formative. Otherwise, you can go ahead and get started.